Excuse me. So I want to do a second video or an additional video on my HVAC system. So the importance of a secondary backup drain pan. Now, this drain pan, as far as I can tell, my prior video, you notice I had a problem with the install being done incorrectly. The condensation line was ran this way, and it came up, and it wound up dropping down through here, and it comes straight down to here. There was no P-trap. There was no P-trap in here, because if you look at the run coming out here, there's no way to make a P-trap with the condensation line running up here. So what should have been done, the condensation line should have came through this knockout that I took out. It should have came through underneath, and then had the P-trap in this underneath section here, and then come down, and then had the proper run without the vertical rise in that I described in the prior video. So the problem that I've still got going on here is you want to have a secondary condensation pan, because if you take a look here, we've got water down here in front of that leak detector. Now I got that leak detector sitting on a 1/16 of an inch of plastic just so I don't hear it squawking all the time with a little humidity getting down here. But if you take a close look, you can see where this knockout is here that hasn't been removed. You can see that water around there. Okay. And the problem, if you trace them through, what's going on is, if you look right in here, you see that water right under the motor? How convenient, right? See the puddle right under the motor? So what's going on, we're going to mosey on up here. This is part of my condensation line. So what happens is, on the blower end, on the positive pressure side, we've got a line coming out down here, which feeds up through the top, and it's insulated so it doesn't sweat, comes through and feeds into this assembly. So I got positive pressure coming from the top, comes down here, which equalizes the pressure right in here, and then this is stepped down. The condensation line comes out of the pan now that I modify, comes straight down in these stepped elbows, so the water cannot climb back up. But with this equalized pressure in this line, it couldn't if it wanted to. But that's just a secondary precaution. And then, of course, come down here, And to do this, you have to put these unions in so you can remove the condensate line, right? Got two of them to remove the condensate line so you can take the blower assembly out. But I'm getting a little off topic. So let's get back to the problem here we got to have at hand. So a lot of people don't realize is that if you look here, my condensation line isn't sweating. What's going on is the condensation pan is. So if we take a look up in here, the external part of the pan is sweating. See the drips on the pan? See it? See it dripping? So what's going on is right here, right up in here, this is wet. You can see the drops of water. That's not coming down. It's not coming, as far as I can tell, it's not dripping over the pan. Okay. As far as I can tell, that's condensation because the pan itself is cold. See it up in there? And of course you can see it on this side, if I get the right angle. Harder to see on this side. So I've got to find a resolution for this issue because it's sweating here between the pan and this flashing. It's coming down, dripping where? Right on the motor. So dripping down on the motor, dropping down onto the housing here. See it? Right there. And since that's running down from here and over here. Let's get some light on this and try and show you. See it now? And that's dry because it was really wet earlier in the day, because you can see where it's dripping here off the motor from the line. That line's not sweating, it's insulated. See it drip there? So it just dripped, fell on top of the motor housing. So that's actually coming from the condensation pan, not cracked and leaking, sweating, right? Because the pan itself, even though it's plastic, it's cold. I can feel it, it's pretty cold. So the air comes up, it's got humidity in it, touches and contacts the condensation pan, drip pan, it sweats on the outside, fills up in here, drips down. So it's absolutely imperative that you have a secondary condensation pan, in my opinion. So I'm not sure I'm going to tackle this. I wonder if I can put some sealant on the pan to act as a insulator to stop the condensation from developing on the pan. Okay, so I'm going to try that, but I just kind of wanted to go over this, kind of do a little video on it, show what's going on here. So even though the pan's draining properly, right? So my drain pan is draining properly. Okay, now that'll dry out, completely dry overnight. And so even though that's not overflowing, and as far as I can tell, that coil is not dirty on the inside, causing any of the evaporative water to drip over the pan. Okay, it's condensating and sweating right there. You can see the drops. See them? I got to insulate that. So it's fun to learn all this stuff. I tell you what, man, hard knocks. So I don't want this happening. Look at this. Look at that. I don't want a wet furnace room. Now before, when it was overflowing, I mean, it was flooded. I mean, this is flooded bad. I mean, you know, I got just a little bit of condensation in here. A little water. Right? Just a little bit. But I don't want any. I don't want any water coming anywhere but out of the pan into the drain. So I'll be doing an additional video on this, because I had to do some modifications here just to keep the coil from over condensate and dripping over the pan. It's just the coil's too big for the pan, and that's the way they come from the factory. You can see this one right here. That just dripped on that metal tape right there, and it's dripping down in the pan. So I mean, it's just, let's take a look up here and see what we're dealing with. It's just, in my opinion, see, I managed to make sure that any condensate drips off of these tubes doesn't drip outside. Just, it's a bad install. So this stays dry. Now, before, the pan was overflowing, flooding all this out. Water's dripping everywhere. It's water going down under the pan, dripping everywhere down here. And these micro tubes, that's what I'm going to call them, these small copper lines, were stuck way out here. All these were hanging out here, and just dripping water down here, right? There's nothing to catch the water over here. So we've got these zip tied up closer to the coil. And in this line, I insulated because it was dripping everywhere, and